Do you remember what I texted you?
No?
It was like the anniversary of your father's death. I didn't know this. And I said, Luke, I am your father.
Oh.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. This one is especially imperfect because, and this is something I've never done before, I'm releasing the interview basically as is. Like, I'm not doing any editing. And the reason for that, well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, my guests, they're just great. Great screen presence, microphone presence. I don't know, but the whole interview is just gold, and I am really, really excited for you to listen. The second reason that I am releasing it unedited is because I have the video of our conversation recorded, and I'm going to upload it to YouTube so you can listen and watch the podcast. I've never done this before. Never published any of the videos, and I don't know how to use YouTube or whatever, so just bear with me, but it's just so good, and I want y'all to see it. Link is in the show notes. Anyway, this has been a really strange week for me because, I'm Christina, by the way. I normally say my name in the intro. I basically got laid off from my job this week. No real warning. I had gotten a disciplinary email like a month prior, telling me what I could do better, and I thought I was doing okay, but they laid me off, and since then I've had a few different responses. The day of, I was very numb and really resilient to people's pity. Because in the moment, like, getting laid off is one of the most shameful things that can happen in the corporate world, at least. Like, it really hurts. My mom and my sister Caroline, they took me to get my first pedicure ever in my life. So that definitely helped. But since then, like, my other response has just been relief. I feel like a burden's been lifted off my shoulder. And when I talk poorly of this job, I want you to remember that I'm very grateful for that job, and they treated me really well. Like, I'm not here to shit on that job, but Fang, you are so photogenic. Oh my God, he's just like staring at me. Fang. Oh my God, I have to take a picture. Fang. All right, I took a funny picture for the podcast. You're welcome. But yeah, I feel relieved. That job was never a good fit for me. So yeah, when I talk poorly of it, it's just like not personal. But yeah, I was really pissed at first, really sad, really anxious, and honestly, the anxiety is what stuck with me. I have been super productive since that day. I updated my website and my resume, and I'm really fucking proud of it. If you want to see my personal website, you can go to christinajumper.com, and yeah, that's kind of where I put all my art, all my writing, and then of course this podcast is up there. But I've been productive, but I also have fallen prey to self-pity and like self-medication. I'll be honest, at this very moment, I am self-medicating with a cannabis product. To me, it's all about harm reduction, right? Not that cannabis is harmful, but if this is preventing me from, say, binging and purging, I would take this over that in an instant. So whatever y'all are doing to survive, just do it. So yeah, if you want to hear more details about my being laid off, you can go to my most recent audio journal on the Instagram, and you can listen to me talk about it more. But that's enough of that sad talk. I just cannot wait for y'all to hear this interview with the hosts of Well, That Fucked Me Up. It's a show where they interview survivors of extraordinary trauma, really, and it's great. They do an episode where they interview the person, then they do another smaller episode where they kind of talk about, like, they break down her story even more, and it's just really good. But yeah, watch this interview on YouTube. Like right now, you can go click the link and start from, whatever minute mark this is. But yeah, I hope y'all have a great week, and please stay safe out there. Just don't do anything I wouldn't do.
Yeah, go. How's our sound?
What's that?
How's our audio? Do we sound okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Yeah, we've got a microphone up here. I've made an upside down boom out of an old trash can. So don't worry about
lovely.
it.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not worried about it at all. I feel great.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put you on my 5G instead of my 2G. So you are going to have to hang in there for 2 seconds, because then we won't cut out.
Unacceptable.
2G is shit and 5G is good. Although in my house, 5G never works and 2G is much better. So
it's the same with my parents' house, actually. I feel like the 5G never lives up to expectation.
We just see some lightning in the window behind you out the door.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Something just flickered behind you.
Yeah, there's lightning outside.
Oh, I love this.
Shit.
Yeah, it's like pouring rain. There's lightning. I didn't realize you could see it, but yeah, that's my kitchen window behind me.
Like you're it's like you're dialing in from a live show of Phantom of the Opera in your living room. It's very cool.
Yeah, I never knew that was my life goal, but it's happening. How are you two today?
Good.
We're really good. I just come off like back-to-back work calls. Very good, very exciting projects that I'm doing with my job, my day job. I told Kyle to get round here earlier so we could hang out, but all he's done is sit on the sofa and look at the internet while I've talked nonsense to people on conference calls.
That's usually what I do all day.
Yeah. So,
my apologies.
No, it's good. I keep trying to change the volume on our side, but then I realize this isn't our podcast. This is your podcast, and we care about the volume levels.
Yeah.
How's it going? How's Pickles and Vodka? You had a break,
good.
Right?
I had a break while I moved across the country and dealt with a lot of mental health shit. But things are okay now. I mean, they're okay and they're not okay. Like, I'm still dealing with stuff, but I feel stable now, and I'm like really excited to get back into it.
How's it being closer to your parents? Is that working out for you?
It's good. I moved out at 18, and I mean, you guys know my story. I told you on your podcast. I feel like we're just launching into conversation, and the listeners know like absolutely nothing. I don't care though. This is just like catching up time. Yeah, it's good. So yeah, what I was saying, I never valued it as much as I do now. I always tried my best to stay far away from them, but now that I'm here, they're like 20 minutes away, so it's like the perfect amount of distance.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And 4 of my 6 siblings live here as well. So
4 of your 6 siblings. Wow. Where are the other 2?
One Guam and Indiana. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh my God, I see the lightning now. I see the lightning now behind me. That's insane.
Yeah, we see it the whole time.
The listeners can't see, but there's behind me, you can see my kitchen window, and there's like insane lightning going on.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like I love this time of year because it gets closer to like my absolute favorite, which is like fall.
Yes.
And like adventurous and like Halloween.
I don't like it.
You don't? Okay, so Luke, you're probably going to disagree with me on this. I think summer's the worst season. My birthday's in July, so I can say that. I call September pre-October.
Yeah.
I agree with Kyle. This is the best time of year. Or like
I guess in England, winter sucks. And it's so fucking dark and cold. You wake up, it's dark. You finish your lunch, dark again. Freezing cold, everyone's grumpy. Everything's slippery and wet and gross. You can't see anybody. Everyone hates each other. Everyone wants to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, another 7 months until we see any sort of sunlight ever again. And then everyone's like, barking
But it's
at
also
each
like
other.
Halloween. It's like
Forget it. Halloween in England. People just trying to stab each other. It's not, I'm telling you now, it's not Downton Abbey. It's not The Holiday. It's not Love Actually. It's none of those things with Hugh Grant. It's just not.
Hugh Grant's like a national treasure.
Great. Sure.
Well, this is now an anti-England podcast. Also, you would love Seattle.
I think I would. It's very blustery and rainy over there, is what I hear. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Everyone hates each other. It sounds like Britain light.
But summer in the UK, when we used to have summers before something happened in the Gulf Stream and then winters became summer and everything became winter, there used to be summer. And my summer holidays from school were delicious. They were like sunny, unadulterated sun, 75 degrees. That's 27 degrees Celsius for the people that understand temperature the European way. And you could go and sit around swimming pools and sunbathe, and everyone sunbathes in the park, and you live your life in and around pub gardens. And you're just eating delicious food and drinking beer from about 11 o'clock in the morning, which admittedly had some major repercussions.
Yes,
later
we will talk about that. But I'm enjoying this rant in the meantime.
Yeah. And I think I'm done. Summer in England, if summer could be summer in England and we could all live in, those nicer parts, it is a wonderful, wonderful place. But
what about East London?
Sure.
Is that a good spot?
Sure. Not going to offend anybody at this stage. Also, I'm like, just like here in LA, where you're like West Side, East Side, it's exactly the same thing. So like we all grew up in West London, and then half of the people moved to East London because they actually wanted a life, because in West London, all you do is meet people and have babies.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just deconnected myself. Okay. I got really excited there.
That was funny.
Wait, so Luke, you're British?
Yeah. Yeah. How could you tell?
So, okay, for the listeners who just hear these two voices and they can't see you and they might never have heard you, why don't you, this is the first time I've had two guests at once on my podcast.
Yay.
Congrats. So I don't know what I'm doing. It might be a little crazy. Fun of it. Oh, it says your microphone is switched to built-in microphone. Rude.
Yeah, it just went, and mine does that the whole time. It dropped out and then when you went quiet, but it'll come back on.
Give me
a great job. You clearly know what you're doing. So
no, you are. I think the banter's been good so far.
Yeah.
All right. Well, oh fuck, my pop filter came off. My microphone is naked.
Naked.
Don't look for a second.
Naked and afraid. Your microphone.
That's the story of my life.
Outside in the rain and the lightning.
I didn't dream about naked and afraid.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, very well actually. It was
my microphone has adjusted itself and it's fine.
Great.
Looks fabulous.
Well, Kyle, why don't you kick us off?
Kyle. Kyle, who are you?
My name's Kyle Wise. I am 6'4". I'm a Libra. I enjoy long walks on the beach and reading.
This is a dating podcast as well. Did we not mention that? We'll give out your number at the end of this.
Was it Dahmer that was on a dating game?
Well, you're talking about serial killers already. We barely got started.
This is a previous conversation we were talking. Anyways.
And I'm Luke Colson, and I'm
not a serial killer.
And I'm equally as tall, and I'm a Gemini. But to bring this full circle, Kyle and I are, I was about to say one half of, but together we make the whole of our podcast. Well, that fucked me up, which is all about surviving life-changing events and experiences. And that's how we know you,
yes.
Christina, because we had you on.
I am a huge fan of your podcast.
Thank you. And just to quickly finish the plug, everyone and anyone really, we think, has probably got a reason to be on the podcast. But we do have a filter because some people's stories just aren't up to scratch,
They're not really fucked up enough?
No, it didn't fuck them up enough. It didn't fuck them up enough, but what we try and get from the podcast, it's not just a podcast to hear people's terrible, awful, traumatic stories and then point and laugh at them. It's to hear their stories and how they rose from them and how they got out of them and the tools in which they use to seek enlightenment and recovery. I think is probably a good way to put it.
Not unlike your story.
Yeah, not unlike
Well,
yours.
I'm still fucked up, but I'm fucked up in a different way than I used to be.
Well, I think the fact you're talking about it and you're openly talking about it is in itself the journey of recovery, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the only way to be, I found. I think, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't talk about it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, so when, I'm curious about the history of your podcast, but I'm also curious about your individual stories and how you met and how you are fucked up in your own special ways. And since this is the first time I've had two guests on, I don't really know how to do this. So do you want to just go like one at a time?
We can probably ad-lib the whole thing.
We feed off each other too.
Gonna be
Can I ask first, Kyle, can you back up a little tiny bit? Because your voice is louder and deeper and it's like harder to hear.
With your
say
level.
something.
We feed off each other now.
Okay, that's a little better. There's a little bit of echo, but it's...
But because he's far away from the microphone, he's now shouting. So one thing you'll realize with Kyle after a few years is that you have to treat him almost like he's a little brother.
Yeah.
That's how I treat him. And that's why we get on so well. That's not true, actually. Sometimes he treats me like I'm his little brother because I'm an idiot. But we met...
through Dave Campbell.
We met through a mutual friend, and we also met through the fact that we met in a kind of through a group of friends who we found that we had a lot in common, Kyle and I, in that we had been through some extremely shit and traumatic stuff and had an ability to just talk to each other. Like, we just hit it off, didn't we? Very quickly.
And I think it's like we both love scary movies.
Yes.
We started out with like horror movies and you know, just Luke was like one of the most honest people I'd ever talked to. I was like, how's your day going? And where most people would be like, oh, it's fine. Luke would be like, absolute shite, mate.
Yeah.
And I was like, tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about it. And
we love that.
Yeah.
So we developed a very sort of real and honest relationship in terms of just a guy friendship where we just felt okay and comfortable and easy. I had to laugh and in a humorous way just to talk about all the terrible things. It's probably okay to say at this point that we met at a time where both of us had decided to stop drinking and stop doing all of the interesting vices that one might partake in over the course of...
Kyle, why are you laughing right now?
Because every time we talk about that time, it just reminds me of like just the litany of shit that I did to get me to quit drinking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's laughing because he's having a traumatic flashback.
Yeah.
That's his reaction. So we kind of embarked on a journey of sobriety together. And with that came up all of the shit that happens when you stop self-medicating with something that you had become heavily reliant on, is fair to say.
Yeah. It's like you're forced to deal with your quote unquote demons.
Dude, this is a huge theme of the podcast lately. I feel like the last 3 people I've talked to there's been a theme of dealing with, like, you think your problems are going to get better when you get sober or whatever, but you're forced to take that hard look at yourself, like you said, and it just becomes even shittier.
Yeah, it definitely becomes rough for a while, because really what you're doing is you're turning off the medication and you're going cold turkey.
I guess it doesn't get shittier, but you see the shit clearer.
Well, you start to process it for the first time in however long you haven't been processing it for. And our stories are very different. I mean, Kyle, if you want to talk about... Well,
let's start. What year did you meet? Like, how long have you guys been friends?
5 years, 6 years? 5 years. 5 years.
Okay. And
it's the quality, not the quantity. Huh. No, I feel like you're my best friend. So, but it's just like it's compounded, and I feel like I've known you my whole life.
When Kyle starts to tell a story, I feel like I've known him for a really fucking long time.
And you're both in California?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And right now we're in the same place. We're in Venice. Where
Oh, exciting.
Kyle came over for a coffee so we could do this podcast in the same room, but I was on calls and we barely spoke to each other before we hopped on.
And I moved literally 5 minutes down the street.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That'll be interesting for the podcast.
Yeah. It's really great, actually. It's totally awesome.
So, okay, Kyle, tell me about your life pre-Luke and pre-sobriety. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
No pressure.
I grew up in a very, so my mom started listening to the podcast, so I have to started censoring
That's interesting.
I gave up censoring myself a lot. My mom listens to the podcast, but now she knows to skip it if it's a subject she doesn't like.
You can also just not mention people.
Yeah.
You can just talk about
there's also such thing as editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
I can bleep out all the names. Just kidding.
I grew up in a pretty challenging situation with my family that had their own demons. They weren't necessarily bad people. They just, like most of us, weren't given the tools to, heal themselves until much later on in life. And with that, there was a person outside of the family who basically raped and tortured me from 6 to 12. And that, needless to say, fucked me up. And I started running with a crew of street toughs, performing a variety of crimes.
I love that you use
I love the ambiguity of this.
Yeah.
Performing street crimes. Just killed someone.
I feel like we all deal with trauma by laughing. And I feel like someone's going to listen to this and we're talking about all these terrible things. We're just laughing. Yeah. It's
we should say that we don't take these topics lightly. And I have to say with our podcast, there is an element of lighthearted humor to it, but doesn't mean that we're, I think the fact that Kyle and I come from our own backgrounds of trauma and the gravity of such trauma as well, it's important that people know that we're definitely not trying to make light. We are kind of trying to make light out of it. We're not trying to make it into a joke. It's just that. It's like when Kyle just started talking then, and I suddenly go back into my oh yeah, this stuff happened, and it hits me, and it becomes very emotive. But then 5 minutes later, he'll say something like performing street crime, and then we're back into the land of laughing again.
So back to the street crimes.
And I think it was. I've been in therapy now, and actually now I work with kids who are in difficult situations as part of a boxing outreach.
Oh, cool.
To kind of help, because I wasn't a bad kid. I don't think there are many truly evil people. I think I was just hurting, and I was like, this will never happen to me again, and I'm going to surround myself with people who won't take any shit, because this will never happen to me, because I'm really just a scared kid.
Yeah.
Running with equally scared kids. And I also at this time developed a love for the arts, and my path kind of led me to LA, but unfortunately my drinking and drugging and just general fuckery came with it.
As it does. And I ended up getting the role of a lifetime, really, or what they call a breakout role. And long story short, I drank myself out of a job in the most epic way. Oh, well, now you have to talk about it.
I won't mention the studio, but they definitely found me passed out in my trailer, and they were like, fuck this guy. We gave you this opportunity. Get the fuck off the lot. And honestly, one, that movie bombed. I'm not going to say it because I wasn't in it, but I'm just saying thank God it, because I think it would have,
easier pill to swallow.
Yeah, I think it would have hurt a little bit more if it was like Hamilton or fucking,
Yeah, or the person who was in your role was now like the biggest celebrity.
Yeah.
In the world.
His name was Bradley Cooper. It was
Yeah.
weird. Like,
You could have been Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper, isn't he an alcoholic too? Or
Oh
was
yeah,
that...
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Huh.
yeah. Yes, yeah.
Interesting.
So, but it was like one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, because I finally was able to hit rock bottom and be like, I'm an alcoholic and I can't do this anymore. And then I was.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
That brings up the point of self-sabotage. I'm actually really interested in, I feel like personally with me, whenever I get good opportunities, I kind of fuck it all up. And it happens often enough that I'm wondering, like, is this something I do intentionally? I'm wondering if you can, like, to get to that rock bottom, because that's the only way I'll get help. You know what I mean? Like, can you two relate to that?
He's been witness to most of my self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Even in sobriety.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke, I see you smirking over there.
Kyle, you have a really good opportunity here. I'm like, yes, but I'm going to go do this thing.
I'll say to Kyle, keep your fucking mouth shut. We're allowed to swear on your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. So
otherwise, my work would be cut out for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, really short podcast.
Yeah.
Hello, goodbye. I said to Kyle, keep your fucking mouth shut and stay out of other people's way. Stay out of your own way. Just 3 simple things to remember. And he'll be like, so he'll call me up like, you got a second? I'm like, oh, Christ. Which one of the 3 didn't you do? It's like, well, I opened my mouth and then like I fucked this, I said the wrong thing to this thing and I fucked this person off and then I lost my job. I'm like, okay, good, really.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like low hanging fruit. And so if somebody's acting a certain way and they're like just right there, and I'm like, it's like hard. I just want to call him out. And I'm like, I need that British composure where it's like,
well, hold on a second.
Good day to you, sir.
No, because I'm the same as you. And it comes with training. Because all the stuff that I tell you not to do, that's literally I put the phone down and then go and do it myself. So I'm a total hypocrite. But
what are bigger brothers for?
Yeah. Exactly.
But bit by bit, but to your point, the self-sabotage, I think a lot of us do that. And I think that comes from a place of unworthiness or feeling unworthy. Like we've kind of got to the bottom I've got to the root of that for me was, this feels a bit too good. My subconscious would be like, go on, fuck it up. Because it's gonna fuck up anyway. You might as well fuck it up yourself.
Dude, it's like you're dating someone. It's like you break up with them before they can break up with you.
100%.
No, it's like, I get that. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, I agree.
But back to your story. So that was when you met Luke in recovery? After...
In like a sort of through that circle of humans, through a mutual friend. Sort of like I'm meeting a bunch of like sober dudes in a restaurant. I was like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Right. Were you in a 12-step program or what kind of?
Yeah. Right. I mean, we don't talk about it much. It's the funny thing, but I mean, we just.
That's what this is for.
We both are and have been for many years.
Yeah.
And
nice.
And someone specifically said you should meet Kyle. You guys are very similar. You're very similar people. And I met Kyle, and this is like tattoo, like dude, like hey. And I'm like, who says that? Who's thinking that I'm similar to this guy? But they were right. They were entirely right because, like we were saying before, as soon as we both started opening our silly mouths, we just started like, oh, how's your day? Shit, terrible. This happened. Oh, I did that yesterday. What? You did that yesterday? I thought that was just me. No, it's not just you. I do it the whole time. What about me? And then off we went. And that's been the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's been great, hasn't it? Ups and downs.
Lots of ups and downs, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just life. And I think if you have these kind of addiction things or any, I feel like anybody, they're always like high highs and low lows. And, I think now in the last several months, we've kind of, at least I've kind of evened out where I'm like, it's not like I'm winning the lottery, but.
I think that there's a whole bunch of ghastly analogies, aren't there, that people especially people in recovery, they like to say, you know, it's like, well, you need to keep your side of the street clean, or
I almost fought Dave from saying that to me.
yeah.
I've never heard that actually.
Right.
But I've never been to 12-step programs.
Right. So keep your side of the street clean. Like basically like just deal with your own shit and leave everyone else's drama to themselves. Like that's like advice number one for Kyle. But also there's this kind of like that roller coaster. It's like when you're hooked on drink or drugs, or you're mentally unstable, or there's a combination of the two, there's no middle ground, and you're not comfortable with the middle ground. You're either extremely high or drunk, and you're feeling in some sort of nirvana or peaceful state where you think actually everything's going to be okay. And
Euphoria.
Then there's a god awful low where you're having a heart palpitation, a panic attack, and you think you're going to die until you can start taking drugs or drinking again, and so on, and continues. So you've got up, down, and, you know, the lucky ones figure it out. And so what you just said about being on that kind of flat, like less up and down roller coaster, more like slightly wavy flat line.
Yeah.
We're a bit unsettled by that because we're not used to it, but actually it's wonderful.
Yeah, people don't talk about that, like how wonderful the mediocre can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to argue the point because you miss all that.
I don't think it's, no, I hear you. I digest, I agree. No, I don't think it's mediocre though.
That's what I'm saying. I agree.
I think we are so used to, or I should say me, I am so used to these high highs where I'm like, ooh, and then these like bottom low lows where I'm going to kill myself and kill everyone else. And I think when we get to that middle ground, we're still like on the upward trajectory, but it's not like, there's like a piece to it where we're like, if this happens, great. If it doesn't happen, great. I'm not going to like fuck with my peace on this.
But it takes a lot to get. So literally before we came on, Kyle was sitting in the throne chair behind us. And he said, you know, ever since we talked a few weeks ago, so he said, I feel very leveled out, like at peace. And I was like, well, dude, I've been feeling like that for the last 2 years. And that is a miracle, because for the last 2 decades before that, I was feeling like the complete and utter total opposite. And I said, enjoy it, like bask in it, because it's an amazing feeling. And talking about the self-sabotage, right at the beginning, when you start to feel like that, you're a bit like, ugh, I don't like this. This is weird. I'm going to go fuck it up. Like I'm going to fuck it up.
That's where I'm at most of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have been a good segue into your story.
Don't care about my story.
We can segue whenever we want. This is
okay. All right. You know, for me, and I was telling Luke this, it feels like when your life is good, or I should say undramatic, you know, and you're always wondering, like, if you're anything like me, it's like you're kind of looking around, you're like,
when's the ball gonna drop?
Yes. But here's the thing that I learned, that Luke taught me: there is no ball. So yeah, you're just like,
what?
Was I drunk when I said that?
Life isn't black and white. What?
That was genius.
I mean,
God, I'm clever.
Yeah. You can have the peace, and you can still have the peace when you're going through some really tough shit. Because if there's anything from my story and Luke's story, it's that one day when you get to the transcendent peak, you will eventually have to climb down the mountain. And I promise you, when you get to that valley floor, you can't go any lower. There will always be a bottom that you will be able to come back up to.
And I feel like the bottom gets less severe every time. Like, if you are on that upward trajectory, you know, like you, I'm all confused with all these metaphors we're using right now, but it's too many.
I love it.
Yeah, my low now is not as low as it used to be, and that can change. I don't think you should take it for granted or anything, but
and not
life has lows. Lows are part of life. You know, you're never going to be
down on it. But I thought I'd reached my lowest point probably like 6 years ago, and then I bettered that with an even lower point 5 years ago, and then about 4 years ago,
So tell us about your story.
I won the competition of how low you can go.
Yeah.
And I thought I was done. I thought I'd had my rock bottom, and then I had another one and another one.
So you're the mental health limbo champion.
So now I'm like, if there's like a mediocre low, it's heaven. It's like this.
Luke, tell people who you are now.
Oh, so born in London, and
What part of London?
well, like West London, like Chelsea, actually. Since you asked,
Are you a fan of the
Chelsea Football Club? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Good plug. My childhood was, I felt a little bit like I was like a latchkey kid. I feel like we could kind of just go and do what we wanted at all times. Spent a strange amount of time in the park at the top of the street as a very young child on like BMXs and skateboards, and always getting into trouble. Always like climbing over the gates at night, or setting off fireworks, or setting dustbins on fire, or stealing this or that, or like egging people's house, like just real little shit, you know?
Where were your parents at the time?
My dad was out a lot. He was quite absent. I always feel terrible because he died 3 years ago, and a lot of my trauma's come out since his death. A lot of my realization about who I am and how I became to be who I became to be is a lot to do with my childhood. And I feel like my father was very absent. My mum will tell me that he was a loving father, but he was also a bully, and he belittled me and bullied me and emotionally traumatized me a lot.
No, I'm skipping forward a little. How was your relationship with him when he died?
It was tenuous. It was fine, but it was based around drinking.
Okay.
You know, he drank a lot, and that would be what we would do. We would meet up and drink 17 bottles of wine, me and my brother and my dad, and pretend everything was fine. I flew over to London when I heard he was in hospital, and I did get to see him the day that he died. So that was pretty intense. And my mum was there too. She was fine, but I think that's just what they thought kids did. They just went around skateboarding and getting into trouble and
performing street crimes.
Thankfully I didn't bump into Kyle and his crew. Pieces, even though you would have been about 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. So when I was 11 years old, I was out in said park with a friend. We got chased by a bunch of crazy people, like hoodlum, as I always call them, like roughnecks, like BMX kids who were trying to steal my bike and my friend's bike. And he came off his bike and he hit his head on a car and he died. And
fuck.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. And
How old were you at the time?
11 years old.
Jesus.
It was rough. And it just, that moment just shaped my entire life, my entire being. Like everything stopped dead in its tracks from that moment onwards. And I didn't know what to do. Like I just watched him die, you know, and it was really awful. And I remember ringing on the parents' door and telling them, and then I remember the ambulance loading him into the thing, and he was dead and blue and his eyes were wide open, and I was like, this is fucking horrible. This is, you know. And to make matters worse, I think the parents, you know, they wanted the kids to be held accountable, so I had to take time off school and go to court to see.
Are you kidding?
Charged with my friend's murder, which it was ruled an accident at the end of the day, because really I don't think anyone at the age of 12 or 13 on a BMX sets out to kill another boy of 11. You know, it was a horrible time. And, you know, my friend group at that point kind of splintered off, and his parents moved back to France, where he was from. And I remember being very traumatized by that, like very, very traumatized. Not long after that, my parents got divorced, and I blame myself for their divorce and the strain and pressure I put on them. And I became a bit weird and introvert, and which is strange if you hear me now. I can't stop literally talking. And then 16, 17 years old, I decided I didn't want to live in the fear and the pain anymore, and just started drinking and taking as many drugs as humanly possible. And that would see me through a good 20 years. But in that time, I did art school, I got a degree, I moved my way up into the world of TV and advertising, and successfully, you know, got to the really top of the ladder, really. You know, I run an amazing company now, and I was with the biggest visual effects company in the world for 10 years. And so I was functioning, but it just all unraveled not that long ago, you know, just unraveled everything. The wheels came off. My my marriage ended. My kids got taken away from me. I didn't have anywhere to live for a while, and I was a real fucking mess. And
I was going to ask if anyone knew throughout the whole time, because you said you were functioning, but I feel like that word can be used very loosely.
They might well have had an idea, but God only knows. No one knew when it came to that end. And I was, I'd maxed out all my credit cards on Airbnb and on motels and like disgusting motels. And I called someone at the, I honestly believe I was probably about 24 hours away from death, from drinking myself to death. And it was like leaving Las Vegas, and people came, a couple of my friends came, and they scraped me off the floor of this Airbnb, which is like, I'd fiddled the Airbnb so I could get in, even though I didn't have any money to pay. My Airbnb rating is not great right now. And they
Moral of the story, Luke has a bad Airbnb rating.
Hospital, like detox, drip, I was fucked. And then that was that. I was like, I thought, at that point, I thought that was what I thought drinking was going to get me through all of that stuff, but it nearly took me out. So that was the end of that. That was the last drink I had.
So have either of you had a drink since you stopped initially? Nice.
No. Well, I had tried to get sober for a few years before that episode.
Yeah, that's pretty typical, I would say.
The icing on the cake.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Well, that was the icing on the cake. I think we're threatened with threatened with with homelessness, no money, and your children being taken away from your custody is normally enough. Although I will say I've met some people and that wasn't enough. They needed like a 10 stretch in jail or something. That's
why I almost don't like to say rock bottom, because I feel like your rock bottom is always shifting lower and lower. Like what was my rock bottom a few years ago is no longer my rock bottom. It's like you tell yourself, oh, that'll never happen to me. And then it happens and you're like, okay, well, that'll never happen to me.
Yes. Well, to bring it full circle back to Kyle, he was one of the first people I met once I came out, into the wild, like 3 days after.
Do you remember what I texted you?
No.
It was like the anniversary of your father's death. I didn't know this. And I said, Luke, I am your father.
Oh. Because you were trying to be like Star Wars.
Yeah. And then he's like, then I get a text, because we were on a group text, and I get like a bunch of text messages like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you didn't know.
Holy shit.
That's a very good
comedic timing.
First interaction I ever had with my best friend.
That's why I always say to Kyle, stop talking, think before you say anything.
Wait. So just to clarify, so that was the first thing you ever texted him. A few days after his father died, you said, Luke, I am your father. That's incredible that you're still friends.
Yeah.
Talk about an icebreaker.
Yeah.
But,
what was your response, Luke?
Fuck you.
Wait, so now I need to know, like, how did you proceed after that?
Well, I think it was fine. Yeah. I think it was just, I understood.
Somebody pulled me aside and was like...
It was like, I was trying to make a Star Wars joke, and I would be like, yeah, but not on the anniversary of my father's death. Let's try that. Let's try not to do that again.
Wow.
But yeah, it was that bottom and that crawling out of the hole, like the depths of despair and darkness, and Kyle being there from day one, that we just found that ability to be able to share everything and anything. Because if someone's seen you in your absolutely rawest, kind of darkest, most vulnerable, open state, you've got nothing to hide anymore. Nothing.
Yeah, well, that's why, I think addicts are the best type of people. All my best friends are addicts, and I met a lot of other friends, like, in eating disorder treatment. Like, like you said, there's nothing to hide. You don't have to wonder is this person who they're saying they are.
100%. You just lay it all out on the table. And he was honest and vulnerable with me, and then same, and that's just how we've, like, the normal conversations we have will probably freak other people out sometimes in a coffee shop or something, So I had a catch-up call with a friend of mine in England who I hadn't spoken to for 2 years, and he was like, you're very open these days. You never used to be open. I was like, because I was drunk. Like, I was drunk and lying to tell you that I was fine when I was miserable and wanted to kill myself. So
it's sad that that's the norm, though. Like, when you are open, that's when people question your whether you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true, actually.
Well, so that brings me to the point of your podcast. And, like, I mean, it sounds like before that you were very open individually? I mean, like Kyle, what were you like that always, or at what?
No, I mean, I, I didn't give a lot to people in my life. Even my ex-wife, who took me to my first meeting, Hollywood late night, which I don't recommend for your first meeting ever.
Sounds spicy.
Yeah, imagine all the people crawling the streets at Hollywood at like 1 a.m. and they're like, we're gonna check this AA meeting. I mean, they're definitely my people, but they're like, it was like my first AA meeting. I was like, I am so fucked. Like, I am.
That's hilarious.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. But shout out to Hollywood late night. No, I was pretty like hidden, and then it felt like when I hit my rock bottom, if I told another lie or if I felt like I was going to explode. Like I felt like that my soul was dying, and because you can only explain like, why are you sweating? Like, why are you like pale? Why are you like puking out? And
yeah,
you can only say, oh, I'm sick, or oh, this, or
all the excuses in the world. I'm very familiar.
We're all resonate. That's we're all like, oh God, the lies.
And God bless my ex-wife,
the cover-ups and the lies.
Like, she could have easily been like, fuck you, man. But no, she was like, I'm going to take you and drive to your meetings. We still got divorced, but like,
do you still talk to her? Do you still have like, that's good.
Yeah, we're actually friends.
Nice.
And
that kind of thing sort of bonds you together.
Yeah. And I mean, looking back, like I feel like we got married, like she get married a version of me that wasn't who I am truly. Yeah. And her definite, like, I'm not trying to put her on blast, but she's much happier in the country reading books, and I want to blow off my fucking head if I'm like anywhere 2 hours south of LA or
I mean, sometimes it takes getting married and making that mistake to realize that you're different people. Like I don't think all relationships are meant to last forever. That's not a bad thing. It's not a failure if you end it.
Like, she enjoys fishing, and I can do it for like 10 minutes before I'm like, done. Get me off this fucking boat. Like,
I quite like fishing.
Oh, I hate fishing. Sorry, Luke.
You're going to say that. Yeah, can I get a number?
Yeah.
Okay, so you met through a mutual friend at your meetings. Now, when did you start talking about your podcast?
Well, that was quite recently, wasn't it?
Well, we joked about it.
Yeah. It just came about very quickly, didn't it? It was like, we're always talking about what a mess we were.
Yeah.
And we're always talking about how much better we feel now. And isn't it nice that we can be open about how shit everything was, and sometimes is, but how with the right people around you and the right mentality, things can get a bit better.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, why don't we're like, God, there's probably like 1,000,001 people out there with similar stories. And I think initially we were a bit scared that it was going to be like a recovery podcast. Because I said, what we don't want it to be is, we don't want it to be
two dudes emoting.
Two dudes being vulnerable and talking about recovery. Because actually what we found out is that some of them are, right? Some of the stories are about recovery, but some of the stories are about recovery from addiction and alcoholism that came off the back of a traumatic event. Some of them are about recovery from phobias or accidents or whatever. But what we found is everyone's story takes exactly the same path, which is like, so anyway, to go back a bit, I said, firstly we came out with the title, it was like, let's just call our podcast, God, that fucked me up. And we thought it was so funny. It's like, how can we ever not publish a podcast that's called, and
it's great because it's all encompassing.
Everything.
Yeah.
And when we have guests on, they're like, wait, when do I start talking about that fucked me up moment? And it's become like a whole, whole thing now. And so then I was like, oh, we're really going to do this? Like, sure, let's figure it out. And, because you do your own podcast, and I'm I'm not technical and Kyle's not technical, and
I still type like this.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah. And so
I watch YouTube videos for everything. I
yeah,
just figured it out
doing
as I go.
research, and I'm like, and by the way, I'm so proud of us that we have like an actual real life podcast, which is like a real life thing that's like has some longevity and people know about, and you know, it's only 6 months. We're only 6 months in, so honestly, our podcast came into fruition 7 months ago, and
that's insane.
Yeah, so we spent a month figuring out. Also, we have my neighbor and friend Christopher was in a surfing accident 3 years ago, and we were like, we'll start with Christopher because he's paralyzed from the neck down. He's got a great story.
Yeah,
and he
definitely sounds like he's fucked up.
And he was happy to do his story.
He's like the most positive dude.
Yeah, he's like, I've been given a second chance, and this is my life, and I see everything more clearly. It's like, what?
Oh, those people make me feel like such shit for my problems.
Well, here's the thing. It's like I've spoken to people about our podcast who are like, I can't listen to it. I can't deal with the pain of those people. I can't deal with what some of those people went through. I'm like, but are you staying till the end? Because if you listen to the first 20 minutes of an episode, it's rough. It's rough going. But if you stay for the last 20 minutes, it's fucking amazing. It's epic. It's enlightening. It's inspiring, and it's emotional in a good way. And oh no, I've never made it that far. It's like, what's the point?
Well, and not everyone is recovered, right? Like, I think we need to say that it's not all people who have figured it out, and that's the beauty of it.
Correct. It's on the people who are on the way, or people who have put that thing behind them, or are in the process of figuring it out. And
well, that one dude had it figured out.
What dude?
The guy who was like, I had some people over and they wouldn't leave, and that really bothered me.
Yeah, we had a guest who we've done 2 interviews that we haven't gone live with. One of them was a cop. He was like a bent copper who basically was just on the podcast to try and clear his name.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, I am wading into like a fucking court lawsuit right here. Like this, I can't go live with this guy. And he's like, to these guys that put me down, and to my haters, and he started naming all these people. I'm like, this is like the beginning of a movie, which doesn't end well.
Yeah. That ends with you being chased through the street.
Like fucking gunshots through the window of my apartment. And I'd be like, get down! Like,
yeah, that's not really lightning behind me. It's people firing.
Right? and then what Kyle was saying, we interviewed this other guy who was like, there's nothing wrong with him. It's like, there's no story. It's like, I thought I had a drinking problem, but I didn't. We're like, okay.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
That sounds bad. That sounds like gatekeeping, but
it was like, and I had this party and everyone was getting drugs, and I was like, no, man, no, I don't do drugs. And we were like, and he was like, yeah. So they left, and we're like,
we're like, Luke and I would have been like, that's all the drugs you brought? What the fuck's wrong with you?
We were like, what happened? Who died? Where's the good bit?
That's so funny.
You got rid of the body.
Yeah. And then it finished, didn't it? Yeah. And we were like, Kyle and I were like,
so what fucked him up?
Yeah, we were like, where's the bit? But then he started plugging his like website and his
I mean, I might not include this in the final ed version, but like that's the hardest part is screening guests for me. Like when I started, I would take anyone and everyone, and now I'm finding myself in the position of, ooh, this person's not the best fit, and I don't know how to tell them that.
But isn't that nice that you've got to a point where you kind of know your market a bit and you know what you want? And I think that's testament to you. I think you should be proud of yourself.
Well, this is really funny, actually. I find some of my guests on Reddit, which is a haven for, straight white males. Yeah. And I posted, with everything going on in Texas recently, and, reproductive health is really important to me. I'm pro-choice and all that. I very carefully worded it as to not be offensive. I said I would like to hear stories of people who have either had abortions or they're very knowledgeable on the topic. I want to approach the topic with respect. I don't want it to be a political thing. I just want to hear your stories. 8 comments from straight white men saying, I'll do it. And I'm just like, was I not clear enough?
Yeah.
Like,
One
guy was literally like, I'm not pro-choice, but I'll talk if you want me to. I was like, what?
Well, I think a lot of people, I understand that people, so what we find is that a lot of the guests have in their turnaround or in their survival story, they've started a business or they've started a website, and that's great. Bring it on.
Marketing is hard.
Yeah,
promotion is hard. It's a necessity.
But also, if they have a story to tell and they can help people, it's like, oh, my husband stabbed me and I didn't know how to leave him. But then I figured out that if I did this, I did, and I found the power, and now I help other women leave their abusive. I'm not going to, I'll be like, sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The point of our podcast is to cross-share tips and help and put people in touch with people, and they hear the story and they're like, oh my God, that's my story. And then, but some people, you're right, they come on and there's nothing, they don't have a story. Can I just plug www.lukesawesome.com? And you're like, that's not.
LukeIamyourfather.com.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a way to wrap this up. I'm just having fun, honestly.
Well, let's see.
What is next for y'all? Like, where are you at with your recovery and your podcast and everything?
That's a good wrap-up question. Kyle, you go first.
Wow. I'm going back to school.
Oh, yeah?
Thinking about going to law school. Gonna be Kyle Wise, attorney for the people.
Hell yeah. Oh, Luke, what is that face you're making?
I'm not making it. It's a non-judgmental face. I believe in him being an attorney. I just wasn't too sure about his tagline.
Attorney for the people? Yeah, attorney for the fucked up.
Kyle Wise, I am your father.
Yeah. Find out your father legally.
Oh yeah, it could be something to do with that.
We'll put a pin in that. You have a few years to work on it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's fascinating. I think it kind of plays into my strength of calling people out on what I think they're. So if
definitely.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And then do it in the legal system, I think I would do really well.
Hell yeah.
Paid to keep doing it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
That's amazing.
Podcast.
Podcast. We're going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, we're 6 months in. It doesn't feel like 6 months. It feels like, I don't know, we've learned so much. We've just learned so much. And I had to put like pilot in big capital letters on our first 2 episodes because they were terrible. I mean, don't
get me started. I know the feeling.
Who is that? Who are those fucking idiots, But now we've got a little bit more we understand a bit more about our purpose and what we're trying to give to the listeners and understand growth and, why people will keep coming back, I guess. Keep coming back. That's funny.
It's a beautiful experience. Like you learn so much about yourself and other people. And take away from this episode, start a podcast, y'all.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. And I think we're getting through this year with just however we've done it. It'll be 52 episodes. It will be quite an extraordinary feat. Every single episode being totally different, yet very similar in the inspirational story that you take away from it. And then I think we're going to I might put a little bit of money in just up it a little bit. Just give it a little bit of a little jingle.
I'll match you with
little jingle, we'll put like $10 in each.
Yeah.
And then just plus it up a bit. See if we can get like some decent sponsorship and I think we deserve that. I think we deserve to do that.
And our audience deserves it.
Yeah, and it's at this point that we should say also that one of the reasons why we set up the podcast is because we were absolutely convinced that we'd find somebody that had been attacked by an alligator and lived to tell the tale.
I did not see that coming.
No, if you know anybody,
we haven't.
All your listeners, if you know anybody who, I keep forgetting our email address.
No,
Debbie.
Make sure you put it in the notes.
Okay. Look in the notes to email us. If you know anyone who's been attacked by an alligator, I'll even settle for crocodile.
What about a Gila monster?
A what?
A Gila monster.
What is that?
Look it up. It's like I don't even know. It's like a Komodo dragon, but different.
Yes. I mean, let's be honest with you. That's going to be a little bit like the guy that had the drinking problem but didn't. It's like I got attacked by a giant lizard. It's like, nope, sorry.
Okay, it started because we were talking about flooding in Florida, and that movie came out called Crawl with...
Oh my God, I'm too scared to see that. I love horror movies, by the way. I'm with you guys, but
But now there's fucking alligators coming for you.
Yeah. And I was like, this is awesome. And then we started thinking, I was like, we should find somebody. So now on Instagram, I send them all these videos of people getting attacked.
Hey, that person is out there, and I will lie in wait for that episode.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having us on.
Of course, this was so much fun. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Same. We did try, didn't we? And then you moved, and then I cancelled, and then we just flat out both forgot.
We both forgot on the same day. That was epic. But you guys are amazing. I support everything you do.
I just want to say, you look a million times better from when we saw you last. Like, keep doing whatever you're doing.
Thanks. I'm still struggling a lot, but things are getting better. Like, my quality of life is way better here. Like, moving here was the right decision. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
you are. Well, that's because we know her now. We're like old friends. We broke in the ice.
Yeah, we're buds.
Yeah. Well, you can come when we do season 2, which starts in January. You're coming on for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be fucked up in new ways. So
just throw yourself into an alligator pit in the meantime.
Oh, okay. Well, will I get a settlement?
Yeah, maybe we can figure it out. We'll get some good.
Kyle can represent me. I don't know. All right, y'all.
This is all coming full circle.
You guys have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Pickles and Vodka. If you could relate to anything we talked about, you can follow the podcast at Pickles and Vodka Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook by typing in Pickles and Vodka Podcast. You can also email me at picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com if you have any stories or if you just want to say hi. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Stay safe.